Great. So, good morning to the international admissions community joining in from the US, and good evening to all my fellow colleagues here in India. Thank you to the panelists and attendees for joining in today. We have a great show lined up for you, and we are once again very excited by the response we've received for attending this webinar. So, thank you so much for taking the time. I also want to share a quick few points. Knowledge at KPT is a free platform created with the purpose of fostering discussion and information sharing between the US higher education community of universities and colleges and Indian guidance counselors. And on that note, I would like to begin our webinar today, the topic being COVID-19, challenges faced by Indian students and high school counselors, by introducing our wonderful panelists who have taken the time to share their expert insights with us. To begin with, we have Ms. Shika Vich, who is the career guidance counselor from the well-acclaimed Step by Step School in Noida, located in the New Delhi capital region. And Ms. Shika has many years of counseling experience and has extensively dealt with personally helping students and parents in their college admission process. We also have Ms. Shivangi Panchal, who's a school counselor from one of the most recognized international schools in the Gujarat region, the Ahmedabad International Schools. And on that note, a special thanks to our panelists for their contributions to our webinar series. Without further ado, I will explain the format of our webinar series. Once again, we've decided to divide our webinar into sections whereby we will be discussing current challenges and important issues, impact on COVID-19 on IB assessment and CBSE examinations, support needed from US colleges for guidance counselors and students, some of the changing factors which are taking place today, and of course, our Q&A section. As always, we'll be having a few polls during the course of our webinar, so please be sure to be lookout on the same. And last but not the least, as Knowledge at KPT is a free platform that aims to share its intellectual capital and depends on the collaboration of many guidance counselors and colleges coming together to work towards a common mission, we kindly request you to please take a quick 30-second survey at the end of the webinar. And that brings me to my first question of the day. What are some of the challenges as guidance counselors are facing right now, as you are facing right now? What are some of the big issues that are coming your way? And I'd like to begin with Ms. Shika. Ms. Shika, would you like to share?
Hi everyone, thank you for taking the time out for this. I know we're all in it together. So some of the major issues that we're facing are, students talking about deference. There is a lot of uncertainty, and most of the time we're just reassuring parents and students because of they're not clear on the wait lists. There is a lot of double deposits that's happening across countries. Of course, we're trying to minimize that as counselors. Wait lists is another big concern, and deference being a major point of how it is going to impact this batch and the seniors of 21. So that is a major issue that we are struggling with.
Right. Thank you so much for your inputs. Ms. Shivangi, would you please kindly add your inputs?
Yeah. From Gujarat, I'd like to say, first of all, thank you very much for all of you being here today. And thank you, Kunal, for having us on the panel. Though you're not, I could say for myself that I'm not such a big expert, but thank you anyway. Yes, we have lots and lots of questions for the US universities. Quite a lot. One of the most important things I would feel is that they are contemplating on whether to go to the US or not. So that is one area that is of concern, that whether they should not. If they stay back here, then how is it going to impact their semester? Will they get a chance to start in the second sem with the credits from here? So things like that. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. This, I think, brings us to our second question and helps us discuss a very important point. What are the, discussing these concerns that not only you, but your students are having, what are some of the effects of COVID-19 on students and parents in terms of their decision making for college admissions? What are the changing factors that you at your end are seeing that parents and students are experiencing?
So one thing that I've noticed is there is a lot of India applications. Suddenly there is a big surge in India applications. Everybody wants to apply to India. Most of my students are very ambitious and they're aggressively pursuing their dream of going abroad. But with the fact that they are possibly looking at a Jan 21 session, or maybe an online session, some of them are also, contemplating if they should stay in India. So there is a lot of sudden surge in these applications from from people that we never thought would apply to India. That's something that's definitely happening. And
Right.
I'm sure Shivangi ma'am has a similar experience.
I have a similar experience, and the parents and students not only are whether, like you said, they want to stay back in India, but they want to go abroad, but they also want to know very clearly whether if they stay and spend say 6 months in India in some college here till they are confident about the scene in the US, whether those credits will be accepted, whether they will be put in, in the next semester. So that is one major area of concern for them. So they're all, yes, looking at India as an option, as a major option.
Right.
They all want to apply, but transfers is one thing, is that area is unknown zone for us, that how it's going to happen. Plus they're also thinking, about the financials, and there's a lot
True.
of uncertainty there.
True. So I'm going to get to my next question, since you all mentioned about about the deposits and deferrals and wait list. Also, of course, in question is about deposit deadlines. Do you see what is the impact on those? That's part A of my question, and then part B is another issue. I think we've been noticing is do you see students submitting multiple deposits at institutions within the US? Or are students depositing it at institutions across countries? So what are you guys seeing on the ground?
So we are definitely discouraging double deposits. Students have to realize that the challenges are same across the globe. It's not that any specific country is, better off or worse off. So we encourage. Having said that, we also have to look out for our students. So yes, parents have been doing double deposits. Some one holding one place in India and one outside of India. Some holding multiple places across the globe. Increasingly, Canada has become again a very favorite destination. There is also a lot of projection as to how the countries are dealing with by the media with this crisis for international students, and somehow increasingly Canada emerges as a winner across the globe. And there have been a lot of firm offers that a lot of my students have made a firm offer to Canadian universities over US universities also, and over other universities across the globe, but that's specific to my particular school. But yes, double deposits are definitely happening across the globe, and students are right now unsure. They're unsure because we do not have clarity on visa also from a lot of universities. I'm not blaming anybody here. We're all living in very, very uncertain times. But if we have
Right.
more confident information about visas, whether they're going to be accepted electronically, what is the way forward, it's going to be much better off for students to take a decision.
Sure, sure.
I would like to add here that yes, everything with what Shika, I agree. They even Netherlands for me. I mean, over and above US, there are lots of students who are accepting admissions in Netherlands, Amsterdam, all those places,
Right.
Ireland. So they are all taking over, and their one leg is still in the US, but they're kind of leaning towards all these other countries as well, and especially with the reasons that she mentioned, the visa process, and we need a little more clarity on that.
Absolutely. So I just want to touch on something, a little extra on this topic. When it comes to US colleges, do you see a lot of your students still being on the wait list? Do you see them coming off the wait list? Do you see them deferring? Or do you see them not sure because there's no deferment policy from the institutions? If you could just kindly explain a few thoughts, that'd be really
The
helpful.
universities which have sent out a clear-cut email on deferrals, the students are planning to take deferrals and
Okay.
spend a year here, whether, which would be similar to what they do in a gap year, or maybe work or this and that, the other. But yes, there is a lot of deferrals. There is a lot of anxiety about waitlists also. It's a catch-22 situation
Right.
where, because of double deposits, waitlists have increased, and yet students are waiting to get off those waitlists. Yesterday, I had a very anxious text from one of my students saying that two particular colleges in California have started talking about, putting people off their wait list. There are some rumors going on that they would prefer domestic students over international students in wait list. That's a very heavy concern that students have.
Right.
And so they are waiting to be getting off certain wait lists. And that's just not specific to US, that's specific to other countries as well, where they're waiting to get off wait lists of their choice of university and then proceed further.
Correct. Ms. Shivangi, what would your insights be when dealing with students, and what you're hearing from other college counselors? Thank you.
Yes, yes. waitlist is a big issue. They are waiting, and the rumor is very strong here as well that they are going to select domestic. So even if that is the case or not the case, we need to have a decision on that soon, because that is creating a lot of anxiety. They're saying that, okay, anyway, if you're not going to get into our choice of university, then might as well stay back for a year in India, and then we will go in year two. So even about transfers, about wait list, what is going to be the gap year scenario,
Right.
deferrals, everything.
Absolutely. So this brings us to our first poll of the day, because I know there are anxiety questions about waitlists. The first poll that universities and the panelists will be seeing on their screens right now is your institution taking international students off the waitlist? I think that'll be really helpful for the counselors, not only on this webinar, but as we share it with other guidance counselors to learn more about what your institutions are doing. And we'll wait for another 20 seconds before I share the poll results with everyone, once, of course, all the attendees have voted. Thank you. And we're just going to wait for another few seconds as the numbers keep coming in. And I think we're good to go. So the question was, is your institution taking international students off the wait list? About 52% of the institutions who are present have said yes. About 27% have said no, and 18% are saying maybe. I guess they might have not come up with a policy and they're still formulating that. We also have two attendees who have shared via the chat, which is Mrs. Bethany Pinger from CSU Chico, saying that we do not waitlist international students, and Mr. Nathan Jose from Westminster College, Salt Lake City, says we do not have Indian students on a waitlist. So that's encouraging to hear, and I'll be ending my poll out there. So the overwhelming majority, 55%, is a yes. Moving forward, I wanted to ask you my next questions. What are some of the challenges, when you think about your schools are struggling with? Are you facing, I know there's, of course, there's a lockdown and a curfew going on in India right now, but are you facing any technology related issues when communicating with your students online, or when assisting them with their college decision process, and, of other such activities? If you can share your inputs. Thank you.
So there is definitely a lot of screen fatigue, if I may use that term. Everybody is exhausted with the screens, and the kids are very smart. Honestly, technologically, they know much more than we do. So I end up learning so much from them every day. So what happens is that there is an overwhelming number of. Sometimes there are 3 students in a particular household. So definitely, it's a challenge. They are not able to have access and to the screen time or to the network time that we would need. And definitely there's a lot of fatigue. Kids get very, very exhausted just looking at the screen all the time. So that's a big challenge that we are facing, and we're really waiting to see how it pans out for colleges that plan to open it online in fall. Because of the change in time zones, how the students going to manage it. And this is a concern that students' parents raise. Look at the AP exams happening at a time which is unheard of, 1:30 a.m., 11:30 p.m. in India. That's not a time to give an exam, like, really.
Right.
So the time zones being one of the major problems, not so much for us. Suppose I have a student who's gone back home and who's an international student, and that becomes a challenge. And definitely there is a lot of screen fatigue, if I may use that word.
Right. And Miss Shivangi, if you
Yes.
can
Yes.
share your
My,
perspective.
my here I have a lot of technology. I mean, there is a technology glitch over here, because networks are down. Gujarat, though it may seem that we are one of the prime minister's state, but still we have a lot of issues about technology. Most of my students, though IB students and A levels, but the other state board students have issues with data. They don't have that much data. So for them to go to buy so much data for so many things, and with everybody working from home, sometimes it is a challenge for them, and they tend to miss classes or tend to miss our sessions and our pointers. So yes, it is an issue a little, but not
Right.
so, but yes. and they are getting very tired, and they can tend to miss, they say, okay, somebody is recording, somebody is doing something, so I'll get it from there. They're getting smarter. So like,
Correct.
everywhere now, soon solutions to all this, they will also bring that in.
If I
Of
may
course.
just add one point to that,
Yes.
it's not just classes and school that's online anymore. Everything is online. So if somebody is doing, say, a classical art form, that training is also happening online. So we need to be mindful of the fact that not just school or university, it's also other things which are online.
Absolutely. I think that's again some excellent perspectives that you've been sharing out here. I know we've discussed the admission side and the financial side. Of course, there are questions on the visa side, when the consulates will open and how that might impact. What is the impact? I want that we can share on the human side. I mean, what are the health and safety questions are students and parents having in terms of on-campus learning or housing, etc.?
So one very big concern has been how universities are going to manage social distancing. That's not just for university, that's also true for schools. Whenever schools do reopen in India, a big concern is how are we going to manage social distancing? There's only so much that you can monitor children, right? There are going to be a lot of parents. I'm sure universities have been, discussing about this, how they're going to manage this with social distancing. How are the dorms designed? Are they going to be single rooms? Would kids want to go ahead with a housing facility that is not a single room facility? That is a big challenge, the design of the dorms. These are very, very valid questions,
Right.
that students are asking.
Right. Absolutely.
Even about the medical facility, I would say that since they're going to be there and alone, and they're not having any family around, so how soon, and whether, how they will be contacted, what all is going to happen to them, who is going to be the person there, go-to person besides the infirmary. So yes, a lot of questions on the dorm, lots of questions on the cafeterias, um,
Correct.
and the classes as well. If there are huge classes, they're going to be smaller classes. So
Right.
the
Absolutely. And
whole
we
experience,
discussed.
I would say, the whole experience is a big question mark for them. So that is why even the online thing, they're a little worried that though they are going to to America for the experience, that experience, if all these things happen, then it'll be lost. Then whether it's worth it or not, that's the big picture, is what I see.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to ask you a quick question. Since you mentioned that there's so many questions on this. So are students and parents towards a fall semester enrollment leading for in-person classes, or do they prefer online? Or are they just preferring to, deferring it to spring 2021 intake when there'll be more clarity? What are you all hearing on the ground? Ms. Shikpa and Ms. Shivangi, if you all can answer that. Thank you.
So whenever there is an option of deferral, people are looking at deferrals certainly. But there is this, there is this a lot of talk about if deferrals are going to impact the next batch of admissions, which go into college in, which are applying next year. So that is a big concern that's happening. Deferrals are definitely on everybody's mind. A lot of parents are also saying, since economy is in shambles across the globe, uh, everything is devalued now, jobs are not being held. So is it worth it to pay for online classes the same fees as they would for an in-person experience? It's never the same. I mean, a lot of campus is about being on the campus, right? You all
Right.
want to experience the flavor. You can't experience it online. There may be many virtual tools and many things like that. So the fact that it's going to be online is a concern, and they are looking at going into Jan 2021. Parents at least are more concerned about the safety of the children. They're very keen that they either defer or go in Jan 2021
Right.
because of the whole travel thing. And there are also the travel restrictions that different countries have, which are not clear as of now. They're not just looking at one target, place to go to. There's UK, there's other places in Europe. So they're very concerned about that. So that is another challenge. But what I'm hearing from my student body is that, they don't want an online experience. They're dying to go to college. They want to be there. So
Right.
if it's not going to be I myself as a college counselor, I'm worried. If I'm a parent also, I'm going to be worried if my kid is going to, school in fall. Are they going to maintain social distancing? What are going to be the consequences of that?
Right. That's some fantastic points, right? Because students are having so many questions at this hour of need, and they're certainly looking for a direction of where to proceed. Ms. Shivangi, what are you hearing on the ground?
Same things as Shikha, but yes, they are looking at deferrals, and online is not something that is parents are very excited about, say in Gujarat, because they all look for value for money, and they feel that if the fees are not going to, they don't mind starting in September and online if there is going to be a difference in the fees. But if the fees are going to remain the same, then they're definitely hoping that they start somewhere in January. So yes, in the that
Right.
session, then they can get really be on the campus. Like I said, it's all about being on the campus, and that whole experience is not something that can be replicated. So they, yes, they want to go, but with buts.
Right, absolutely. And because of the uncertainty. True. So that will, I know there's uncertainty about all of these factors that we just discussed, right? That we just went over. But I want to move into my next segment of the webinar, which is into IB assessments and CBSE examinations. What is the impact of those? And I'll ask you what my question is, that's coming up right now. What is the impact you are seeing on conditional admissions now that IB exams are cancelled and CBSE exams are delayed? I mean, what is the impact of these cancellations and especially the postponement of the CBSE examinations? I know many of y'all have been in touch with the Ministry of Education and attending those webinars and the officials out there. What are the updates that you are hearing on the new 12th grade CBSE examination? So also from an IB perspective and also CBSE perspective, I think we'll start with Ms. Shivangi, who can share with us the IB perspective, and then Ms. Shika, I know you have a large classroom of CBSE students too, and you can share with us, CBSE and of course IB as well. So Ms. Shivangi, what would your inputs be on this?
Yes, for the IB exams, what has happened is that most of the students, I have a huge cohort of 56 students, and so they have a big concern that they haven't done justice to their IAs. So the formula that IB has used is very scary for them, that what if we don't get the grades that we had hoped for, and then what will happen to our admissions, conditional admissions, if we don't get those grades.
Right.
So they're very, very nervous about it. So that is why the double deposits, that is why their options of India, I'm connecting all the dots to that they are very uncertain of what their final exams is, especially the UCs. So they're nervous that whether they are able to meet the AG requirement, whether they'll be able to clear it. They're not even going to look at the predicted. So I mean, we all know that there is going to be a difference there. So between the predicted and the finals, plus even the A-level students, we had a math session. So A-level students have done the math session, are done with their
Right.
exam. Their results are in on May. But what about the ones who are going to take it in June? That's another issue. That then what happens? So are
Correct.
we going to be compared? What I mean, so this uncertain, the zone is a lot in their mind as to how they will be assessed, how they will be looked upon, whether they'll be rejected later on. So that is one very scary thought for parents, and that is why they're all over the place. They're trying to place deposits elsewhere, try to find colleges in India, just in case kind of thing.
Correct. Absolutely. Ms. Shika, your perspective on CBSE, and of course, I know you do IB as well, but beginning with CBSE.
A lot of plans are shelved, like Shivani ma'am said. I think the universities have been more than compassionate in the sense that they're understanding that conditionals will not be, they're not going to back out on the conditions, and they understand what is happening. We're getting a lot of reassurances from universities across the globe, whether US, UK, Europe, Australia. So that's not my concern. But what has happened is we recently had a webinar by the Minister of Education of India, and the remaining CBSE exams, some of the CBSE exams were not conducted, are going to be happening in July. So that's a big concern. That pushes timelines way forward, for everything.
Right.
And the colleges in India are going to open up in September. So the Indian timeline wise, they are safer, but there are questions like NEET exam. The Medical Council of India has made it mandatory that if you want to study medicine, you have to give the NEET exam in India. That is going to be happening on the 26th of July. So that being being pushed. How are they going to go forward? I have two medicine students who plan to go to the UK. With that happening, and how then how are they going to pan out with their visas? What's going to happen there? That's a big concern because of the timelines being pushed. We also know that the IB exams results will be released on time, but in terms of transcript sending, when are we going to be able to send it? And I'm sure that universities agree. They've been more than accommodating, more than helpful. They've pushed their deadlines in accepting transcripts, but I've had difficulties with some universities which were not accepting electronically the material. They wanted paper material on the lockdown, even so those are definite concerns that we have as guidance counselors in India.
Right.
We do not know when the exams are going to be conducted. Though this has been announced, it's still, it changes from day to day, at least the timeline for the rest of the CBSE board, because it's not just India. They have CBSE schools in the Gulf as well. So what's going to be happen? No decision has been taken firmly, and that puts us, we are not able to answer to the universities as to when is there an exact timeline when we will have the results. Though that does impact the fall sessions for international students from the CBSE board, certainly.
Right, absolutely. And you mentioned there was some issue with the deposit deadlines. Have you been facing any issues, or most of the institutions
I
just
think most of the
have reached
institutions
their
have
goal?
been very accommodating with the deposit deadlines. A lot of them push them from May 1st to June 1st as well.
Right.
And, even the ones with May 1st, I think it really forced the students to reflect, think, and make a deposit there. But what is happening is we do not have a timeline for when we'll be able to send in a final transcript, and what is the mode that we're going to be using if the universities are not accepting electronic transcripts from us. We do not
Correct.
know when the results will be released by CBSE. If the exams are going to be happening in July, are we looking at a July end? Because the previous exams which have been conducted have not been evaluated due to the lockdown as well.
Right, absolutely. And I think that really brings up some really great perspectives as to what's happening on the ground out here. We will have a quick poll again, because I think both the student counselors said about transcripts, and then let's go to our next poll, which will be online, and you should see it on the screen. Does your institution accept e-copies of transcripts, or only physical copies, or both? Of course, that was one of the questions. So please share with us your points out here. And we'll wait for another 30 seconds before the attendees pull in their answers. Thank you. So I think we have most of the answers in right now, and I think I'm going to end the poll out here. So quickly ending the poll in about 3, 2, 1, end of poll. So it is really heartening and nice to see that about 78% of the respondents have said that they accept both the e-copies of the transcripts and physical copies. So I'm glad to hear that. I'm sure the counselors will be happy about that. Some institutions, 19% of them have said e-copies only, which is also good because it really helps in this lockdown. And about 4% have said about physical transcript, but I guess these are all perspectives and everyone is dealing with uncertain times. So it's really important to see these perspectives. Moving forward, I'm going to move to my next question for the day. I think you had discussed about virtual engagement and region specific information earlier. So let's see what support do you guys need or students need from US colleges. So I'm going to have the first question in terms of that segment. What type of region specific information for India can US colleges share that parents and students will feel beneficial? What support do you as guidance counselors need from US institution, and what support do your Indian students need in terms of any support that they're looking out for? A quick few perspectives. Ms. Shivangi, who would like to
What
take?
really helps us is when we have a dedicated person to the region, and most of the universities do have that on ground. It just helps us to reach out to them. It is quicker everything is quicker on the uptake. It saves resources and saves time.
Right.
That is something that's very easy for me. If I have a dedicated person that I know caters to my region or my country in specific, that makes my life easier and I can directly reach out to them. That is is very helpful. That also showcases to me that the university cares about my region, right? That they're
Right.
dedicated to, they're really concerned. So that really helps. That's something that I'm looking to here for, and in terms of support, I think a lot of universities need to tell us clearly whether they're accepting deferrals or not. There has been some concern about the fact that should the universities release information about whether they're planning deferrals or not, yes, we want to have clear-cut information from you. In this day and age, I don't think, you can hide information in this age of technology. So if we have it clearly from you, whether you're accepting, open to taking students taking a deferral, we will be happy to pass that, information along to our students.
Right. Absolutely. Um,
Yeah, and
Ms. Rangi, if you can share your perspective.
yes, I would like the universities to also give us a, a one-page leaflets telling us a bulleted things of what is expected, what are they looking for, and especially for my grade 11 students, those who are preparing to put in their applications. So those kind of things, that what is that one big thing that in the whole holistic process that they're looking at now, that since the grades are going for a toss, the standardized tests are not more or less going to be around. So what is it they're not able to take care of their profiles? So what is it that they're looking for in their application and in that student? So that kind of very clear statement for my forthcoming batch or for my existing batch, also their decision on waitlist, deferrals, transfers, um, finances, where if they are going online, whether they're going to be there, not be there, their how their policy, their health policies. Of course, all of them are in place, I'm sure, but just very dedicated page probably on the website which gives us all the information. And like Shikha
Right.
said, the most important thing is the regional person, because that is who's we can talk during our time zone.
Right.
It's important to have somebody in our time zone.
Right, absolutely. So that's really great to hear as well. My next question is about virtual engagement. And I'm going to break this question into three parts so that it'll just be easier for the audience and for you. The question that we're asking: what type of virtual engagement do you see as beneficial to counselors and students? What topic areas do you think would be most beneficial for prospective Indian students when we're talking about support? What for students, for Indian students and parents to learn more about US colleges and, also the opportunities and, the support that you are asking or requesting for. And then what is the best way to reach out to high school students? Because as we know, students just don't reply to messages sometimes. So my question would be, what type of virtual engagement, what top areas of topic support do you all need, the students and guidance counselors? And then, of course, what is the best way to reach out to students and families?
So I'm going to flip it a little bit. I think the best way to reach out to students is through their guidance counselors. When we
Okay.
receive an in communication from you all, we make sure that we pass it along. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it sometimes helps that we can directly pass along the information to parents, and parents are very important in Indian decision making process. So that ways, they have the option of, they get the information straight away, because often I hear from parents that the message board that I use just for students do not reach them. So I've made it a point that I send the information out to the parent body. One is that. Two
Correct.
is the kind of virtual engagement. I think what works best is students have had enough of, me, enough of faculty members. What works best for them is listening to students. They value a student ambassador's advice more than anything. I've seen even when universities come for in-person engagement, when they come for the school fairs or anything, when they bring a student, the impact that has is totally different. So I also know of universities which made, they planned out a whole chronicles of webinars by students, where students spoke about different things such as weather. In fact, even in the university, it helps. It does help. One very pertinent question which everybody seems to be asking about: is the the OPT and the stay back and the post work visa, and that's across the post work visa remains a concern for across countries. So that is
Correct.
something that you can have a dedicated webinar for. And also one thing that would be very helpful is if we have these there is a timeline for the webinars, like you have a dedicated day when you have it for international students, because there is so much online happening that what I'm seeing is that we get the information much too late, and then students end up missing out on those webinars. So that would be a good idea to plan them in such a manner that the information can be disseminated properly. Student ambassadors, and definitely please use us to spread out that information about webinars.
Right. Absolutely. And Ms. Shivangi, what would your perspective be? What are you hearing?
Yeah, I totally agree with what Shikha is saying. Recently we had a conference in Ahmedabad, and that time some of the university people were there, and they had asked the students how they like to be contacted. So most of the students in fact said that they would like them to be visited through Instagram and the newer versions of contacting them. So if there is information put in there, I'm sure it will pop up to the children much easily. Then also besides us, we need to be in the loop as well, like she says, most important factor.
Right. Absolutely.
Web page, I would say the website needs to be regularly updated and dedicated pages for that, because parents, even though they miss out on anything, they go back to the website. So sometimes, though it's difficult in these days, website has almost become passe, but
Correct.
yeah, website is still very important, at least for a region like ours.
Correct. Absolutely. And, when you speak about parents, we discussed this earlier as well. I wanted to ask you, of course, COVID-19 has brought about a lot of financial impact on students and their families and their decision making. And then my question to you is, because you all discussed about parents being an active part. As we know in India, they're such an important part of the decision making process, because we have a collectivist culture, and then the guidance counselor, the student, and the parents sit together and make an admission decision as to what would be the best fit for the students. So financially, how is COVID-19 impacting student decisions to study abroad? And this could be in any country. What are the financial implications? Because we keep hearing, of course, of the sharp rupee depreciation. The rupee has depreciated 10%, just in a month, right? Or there's the stock market crash. There's been, of course, impact on savings. What are you hearing from students and families,
So there
Mishika?
are two opinions on this. Though there are many varied opinions, but the two strong opinions are: one is one set of parent bodies shelving their plan. They're increasingly saying we'll send the kid for a post-grad education,
Mm-hmm.
because we just don't have the bandwidth right now. There's a lot of uncertainty about the parents' own jobs. But
Mm-hmm.
then there is a second set of parents which says that we planned this much ahead of it, and ultimately it's only 1 year vis-a-vis the 4 years or 3 years that my child is going to be not in class, and we all realize that. So we still want them to go ahead and experience college. So both the opinions are very, very popular. Like I said, there is an increased student mobility to other countries apart from US. Most likely these concerns are stemming from what they're hearing. It's based on hearsay about what is going to happen to their post-study work visa. That has become a big question right now. And a lot of it has also got to do where they feel that they want to stay back in India now and go on for their post-grad studies.
Right. Absolutely. That's interesting to hear. Ms. Shivangi, what are you hearing? Are students planning to defer it a semester, looking for deferment options, just take it online and, go with it?
Yeah,
What are you seeing? What are
yeah,
you?
more I hear from students, except from the the very my star students. They are like keen on going, but the parents again have the same feeling that if we are paying so much for online, we might as well let them be for a year and defer it for a year. So because of the finances that are not so much so happening just now, they are concerned about their own finances, whether it is worthwhile. So online is something that they're looking at. If universities are giving subsidized online stuff, saying that okay, if you're going to join in say January, and this is the fee that they would have to pay for it online now, then probably they would not, they would consider going to the US. But yes, as of now, online is not so exciting for them, and deferment is exciting. Doing a semester in India or doing a year in India and
Right.
transfer to the US or any other country is coming up a lot.
Okay. So I think that that's a really good point about deferments that we are seeing out here. I think this will bring us to our next poll. Again, we'll spend another quick 30 seconds and you will be seeing it on your screens. Does your institution offer deferral policy in place for international students? Please do let us know. Thank you. And we're just going to wait a few seconds. And I think the overwhelming majority, I'm going to close in about 8 seconds. There's still a few more that we're waiting for out here. I think it's about time to end the poll. So 96%, I think an overwhelming majority have said that they do offer a deferral policy in place for their international students, which is really heartening to see. I think one of the questions, are your students having questions, Ms. Shivangi and Ms. Shika, it's really heartening to see, like you said earlier, Ms. Shika, that to see this compassionate response from US colleges, right? Are there questions, supplementary, a second question that goes along like, ma'am, if I defer my admission, what will happen? Or if I defer to a next semester, what happens to not only my admission, but also maybe perhaps if I've got some scholarships? Are you hearing something of that nature?
Shivangi ma'am, would you like to go ahead?
No, scholarships I'm not hearing. They're not asking about scholarships. Yes, they are trying for scholarships that from the universities that they have already paid that deposit on. That okay, if you can give us some scholarship, then we are not we are more keen. We don't mind because of this online thing. If it happens, then that is something that they are not very excited at all about. So
Correct.
yeah,
That,
scholarship is not something that I'm hearing so much so, but from the universities that they have already enrolled in, they are trying to find if they can take some benefit from there and some scholarship because finances are an issue for the parents.
finances are, of course, an issue for the parents. That's great. We'll move on to one of our final questions for the day. And of course, then we have about 15 minutes. I think we've extended this, but we have about 15 minutes for Q&A after this. Given all the discussions that we've had right now, about, not only the admissions, the scholarships, the parent perspectives, health and safety, you all mentioned about India-specific resources being important. What is one piece of advice that you can share with US colleges, something that you see them that they can implement, something that you think will be helpful? What would be that one advice you can share with US colleges who are attending today?
Can I start, Shikha?
Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
I feel somehow very strongly is that since, like I said in the beginning, that everything is, I want to know, and the students would really like to know is that how are you going to assess them for the next year? So since it's grade 9, grade 10 is what that is what they have. They don't have grade 11 very much.
Right.
So, and the standardized testing in most universities is not, and we are not sure whether things are going to happen. TOEFL and everything. I mean, everything is happening from home. So I personally have a lot of questions on the integrity part of it. So then if only 9th and 10th is what they have, they can't do very much, online, say by internships or by classes or courses or language or whatever else. So what is that one big mantra that you would have to give to me and my students to take home that, okay, this is how you're going to look at and assess the students. So this is one question that I would like the US university to tell me or guide me on, or probably put up on your, sites, and that this is what we are looking for in the holistic picture. Demonstrated interest was one big area where parents, because we kept saying, okay, you need to demonstrate, but how are they going to demonstrate now?
Absolutely. Ms. Shikha?
So I'm looking at more information coming my way from my region-specific admission officers, and universities are already doing a very good job of it. I understand there is a lot of uncertainty and questions are there on both sides. Most of the time I'm asking questions on my messenger to university admissions officers and vice versa. But it'd be nice if we have information on their wait lists, on their deferral policies directly from them, so that we can share it with students. And what about the scholarships that have already happened, for students? Because a very big thing that I'm seeing is tipping the scales in favor of a university is the scholarships that have already come through. So what are you planning to do about those? How are you going to pan it out? That I need just more information coming my way. That's all, which is already happening, but it's just something that we want to reiterate.
I,
Right, absolutely.
I
Yeah,
just
go ahead.
one more question that also, if a very important point which I have missed out is that I need information on the ED policy, because
Right.
what happens if the student who has applied ED and cannot go now, and if there is a deferral, then what happens? Or then can they choose? Or if they don't have the money? So the ED policy we need to understand a little more deeply.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to any other final points that you would like to share other than these? I think these are the main points, right? Basically. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to move to the Q&A section, and we have a few Q&As that have already come in, but for the admission of officers who are online and would like to ask the panelists, please put in the chat box your Q&A questions, and then we'll obviously be asking the panelists about this. So one of the first questions that we've been seeing out here that has come into our Q&A chat box has been from John Erickson. And John Erickson would like to ask, I have been thinking if we should defer all international students until the January semester. Would you advise to defer international students for January semester, take online classes this fall, study in India, or push on with fall enrollments with the US? And I have just placed this question in the chat box to the panelists so that they can see it, because I know it's a long one. So here's the question that Mr. John is asking.
Yeah.
Anyone would like to take it?
Yeah, so John, it's different for different students. Each student, I'm sure you understand, is unique. What is happening is there are a lot of safety concerns. So while students don't want to do an online semester in fall, I feel a lot of parents in particular are leaning towards a Jan semester. They're saying, "Ma'am, they were going in September. A few more months doesn't make a difference. They can always spend more time with family." So in-person semesters are always preferred. And looking at the different visa policies of countries, looking at how I-20s are going to be issued, we still don't know. Yes, definitely, parents are leaning towards an in-person January semester, also because of social distancing and other travel, constraints in place. We are not actively advising students to stay in India because, like we said, that we also understand this is maybe a year maximum, vis-a-vis the 4 years that you're going to be spending in your universities. But yes, parents have at the back of their mind the fact that they may want to shelve their plans and stay back in India.
Right, absolutely.
I agree on that as well. Hi, John. It's been a long time that you've been to Ahmedabad. But yes, people are bending towards the Jan session because they want the in-person experience.
Right, that's wonderful. Any other questions that we have for the panelists out here? I think I think what we can okay, so I think there's one more question that has come from Shubhashri Jain. She's asking, my question to the panelists today is, what are the trends you are seeing for non-US universities? Is there an inclination towards Europe, excluding the US, as a study destination? And she's asking, like, are you seeing these trends away from, US universities? Would any of the panel members like to take this on?
So, Bisri, hi. So, definitely there is a trend away from US. There is no doubt about that. we are not pushing it actively. It's to each his own. But yes, however, having said that, even Europe is, for Shivangi ma'am in particular, she said Netherlands remains a high, a country that they want to go into. For me, Canada has a very strong foothold in my school in particular. And what I'm hearing from other counselors also, from across Delhi at least, is that they are very willing to go to even UK as a destination. Suddenly become very, 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 very coveted, looking at the 2 years post-work visa, and it's being closer to home. So that is definitely happening, that there is a trend towards these countries. For Shivangi ma'am, I'll later answer for her own student.
Yes, I agree with Shikha that yes, Netherlands, Ireland, all Europe is definitely something that people are looking at. Canada is, though I have very few students who apply, just a couple or two, so they are confirmed for Canada. But US is not the first on the list, and India, of course, is the new option.
Okay, okay. That's interesting to hear. We have the next question from Miss Melissa Texeria, who'd like to ask the panelists, what is the reason for the change of student destinations from USA to other countries? Thank you.
Come again, can you repeat the question for me, Kunal?
Absolutely, sure. Miss Melissa Texeria would like to ask, what is the reason for the change of student destinations? So if you had to put some reasons, what is the reason for the change of student destinations from USA to other countries?
OPT being one main one, there is a lot of speculation around that, which is generated. They feel that they will not be able to stay back. The career services may not be as friendly as they are in other spaces. Like I said, UK became very, very popular after the announcement of 2-year post-study visa. So that is one main concern. The cost factor, the fact that it is very high, in terms of cost for some of them, is another factor that they're changing their destinations. Also, some of them want to be closer home. That's why, for us, UK works out or Europe works out, though that's not a really valid reason for them going all the way to Canada. But yes, that is one of the those are some of the reasons that we're seeing.
Yes.
Right.
For us, it's the same reasons. Cost is one of the major concerns, and yes, OPT is another big thing.
Yeah, OPT is another big thing. Okay. And we have two other questions that are related. I think one of the first questions that I'd like to take, I think you answered it, about cost, safety, etc. So is a trend away, Mr. Nathan Jones is asking this, is the trend away from the US because embassies from these other countries are open now for student visa appointments, or immigration policies, for example, Canada?
So it is definitely the immigration policy, Nathan. That is a very, very important factor, that they feel that they'll be able to stay back there. Honestly, the embassies for Canada also hasn't opened up here at least. There's a lot of speculation around visa. I spoke to 5 admission officers from Canada, and they all said, though the students had firmed up their admission, do not apply for visa right now, because they're still speculating whether it will be online. Some of them said even if it's online, they may require a visa for Canada. So the embassies is not a concern there. What is a concern is the immigration policies. That's a very valid point. We should have picked it up before.
Right, absolutely. So that's interesting to hear. And then we have another question out here from Devesh Anand. And Mr. Anand would like to ask, in the perspective of parents, what kind of COVID-19 preparedness by a university would they like to see to reassure them for their students and their children's arrival for travel? Any specific questions that are being asked to you about the COVID-19? So it's a two-part question. First is what preparedness that you feel can assure them, and then any specific questions. What are the questions coming your way just specific for this?
Hi, Devesh. One of the questions I think Shivangi ma'am also mentioned, that is social distancing. How are universities going to take care of that? What is the class size going to be? Because some universities in the West have huge class size for say a university which has general classes. So that is a major concern that we are facing. Medical policies. One of my students asked, what is the university's take on the medical health policies that we're going to be taking? Are they going to be helping us? So So that is another big concern. And in terms of social distancing, dorms, how are your dorms structured? I mean, that cannot be changed overnight, most of them are vying for single rooms, because they don't want to spend a lot of time with anybody from another country in the same dorm room. So that is a concern from my students, at least, that I'm hearing.
Right, absolutely. And let me see if we have any other questions, because
I
I
think
think,
Subhasri had a question
yes,
about the virtual sessions.
absolutely. I was
Again,
just going
virtual
to
sessions.
get to that. That's a great point. Thanks, Ms. Shika, for pointing that one out. So, the question from Ms. Shubhashri Jain is, could you please discuss the topics they, as in I believe students and parents, would like to hear from the universities? Any specific topics that you feel are the buzz points, are the, that'll really be on the pulse right now?
Subhasri, we missed out on saying this. We were discussing before also. One thing that kids are really interested on having master classes. I was surprised that even some of the kids who were going to college this year were asking how to utilize their time more effectively. I said, don't you want to spend time with your families? They said, no, we want to upgrade our skills. So if you have master classes, podcasts, those kind of things, where they can engage with professors on a particular topic, that would work for next year's batch as well, next year's cohort. In terms of what Shivangi ma'am is asking, in terms of building their profiles, they're really enjoying these master classes. Even our indigenous universities are holding brilliant master classes. It's interesting to see the kind of classes that have sprung up, and we've been attending them. So that is something that they really enjoy. We previously also said that student engagement virtually is also something that they're looking at very, very strongly. A student from their region, everybody gets so excited when, say, they see for a Spanish university an Indian there and talking about his experience at that university. So that is something that I think they're looking forward to.
That's great. Ms. Shivangi, if you have some
Yes,
perspective.
no, I agree completely with what Shikha is saying.
Okay, that's wonderful to hear. So we have the next question from Mr. Paul Sargent, who would like to ask the panelist, how large of a discount would you feel is fair for online only education for fall 2020 semester?
Wow.
That has us stumped. As you can see, all three are faces.
Right.
I think that's something that depends on the university completely. There is even schools going online. Let me tell you, we've offered a certain number of discount depending on how we have, taken forward our online classes. There's a lot of investment in that infrastructure as well. So that's completely at the discretion of the university. Let me tell you, just the word discount is enough to get people to look at you. It doesn't matter what percentage it is. They're just happy to know that you've offered one and that you consider it towards them. Shivangi ma'am, any thoughts there?
Yes, even I think so, that discount is something that Indian minds are so accustomed to. And yes, but definitely, but yes, a reasonable amount where they don't feel the pinch so much. They feel, what I would honestly wish is that they don't stay so much. So all those who have applied out, go out. So if you're looking at the fee structure of the Indian universities and more or less on the same lines, then if they have to wait this way or that way, then it would be better that, okay, I don't mind, I'm still with my university, never mind if it's online, rather than spending 2 lakhs at a university here, I'm spending it online there. So when they have to spend even much more than that, that's when they start comparing. So that is something that you'll have to figure out a little bit. But yes, discount would really be appreciated a lot.
Right, absolutely. So is there any certain percentage that you have in mind, if you had to say, for example?
I would say a little more than what the Indian colleges are
I think that's a question for administrators. Really, we are counselors.
Right. Absolutely. That's great. So we'll move on to the next Q&A, because I think we're almost up to time, but I'll proceed with this question. We have it from Ms. Shefali Surve, who'd like to ask the guidance counselors, will schools be providing subject specific LORs for students if they score borderline?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we are very generous with our LORs. And the beauty of, I think, in an Indian high school, everybody knows everybody. You know all your students. And if you don't know, there is enough grapevine going. I always reach out when I feel that I don't know a student well enough. I always reach out to the pairs also. to get their perspective. So a lot of teachers do not say no to giving LORs unless they really feel that the student, it would not be justified. We're a very honest school, at least for our school. And if the teacher, subject teacher, truly feels that it's just not justified, the student hasn't done enough work there, even then we try to provide an LOR.
Right, absolutely. And I think we're almost with time up, but I know the panelists might have a few questions for the universities. Please share your perspectives in the chat box, and I'll be quick with this one. As guidance counselors, let's look at the other way around. Do you have any questions for the universities in specific that, I'm obviously going to be sharing your email addresses right now in the next few seconds on the chat box so that the conversations can continue on this important subject after our program is over. But any specific questions that you have been having?
Yes. Can I start? So again, I'm coming back to the same thing, is what can I take back for my grade 10 and 11 who are building up their application? Grade 11 is completely going crazy because they don't know how much to do and what is good enough, because though they have full scores in 9th and 10th, all A-star students of IGCSE, or 90% in their state board exams, their 11th standard of IB, we had to take a very small online test just so to complete the year, in fact, but was not enough for them. So what should they do besides all the other online things? So I think your criteria, so whether it's the essay which is going to make or break, or your recommendation letters, how do they demonstrate interest, how do they kind of make blogs, have an interview, have a video, so that your criterias of that holistic process needs to be outlined very clearly by the university admissions team, so that they
Absolutely.
are aware of what to do.
Absolutely. And what I'm going to do is, one of the polls that we had earlier, I think it was a little bit skewed because we did not offer the impact of, institutions who do not have a wait list. I'm just going to quickly launch the poll for about 15 to 30 seconds so that, we can get answers that are not skewed, but they are a little more accurate, because we did not offer the option of we do not have a wait list. And a lot of universities wrote back saying that. But as the attendees and panelists are taking that poll right now, just to help us get more accurate results, and I can already see the accuracy and the side tilting, which is always good to get accurate results. I want to share firstly the poll results, and then obviously I'll be having a conclusion and thanks message for everyone here. So we're just going to wait a quick 5 seconds before some of the results come in, because I can see already 75% of the attendees have voted, and I'm going to wait for 3, 2, 1, 0. So a review of that poll earlier. The earlier poll was, is your institution taking international students off the wait list? The new results now say we do not have a wait list. So that's overwhelming majority of 65%. And that's why I wanted to take this poll earlier to share accurate results. So that's very good to hear. About 15% say yes, they will be taking international students off this. And 4% have, about 4 to 5, 20% have said maybe. So they are actually thinking about their policies. And also good really heartfelt to hear that 0% have said no. So it's really nice to see, the poll results come in, and I can share this on the screen right now. But before we go away, I just want to take this time to quickly thank all the panelists for taking their kind time to share their expert insights with us today. And thank you for all the attendees to attend the Knowledge at KPD webinar series. And I have also shared the email addresses of both the counselors in the chat box that is accessible to all the attendees. This will ensure that, at the end of the day, these conversations keep on going and you can communicate with the guidance counselors. I request you to please also take a quick 30-second survey that will be via link after we end this meeting, because your perspectives are important. That will really help us to ensure future webinars are really geared towards what important topics that you would like to see as discussion. But thank you so much, Ms. Shika, once again for your time today. Ms. Shivangi, thank you so much for organizing this. I know we've been in touch. And Ms. Shika, thank you so much as well.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Right. Thank you so much to everyone, and goodbye. And please do stay connected. And we look forward to keeping in touch with you. Goodbye for today. Thank you. Bye.